Hey everyone, this is Meyer and welcome to the channel. What I'm going to be doing in this video is reviewing a new plugin by TheHim DSP called SubNinja. Big thank you to TheHim for the review copy of it. And one of the things I should mention before I get started talking about it, what I like about it, what I wish was different about it, is head on over to this link in the description and use the promo code MYRTRANCE. That's MYRTRANCE. You'll get to download this plugin for free during the month of February. Afterwards, it will be a discount code. Now, I don't make any money for this. I don't want to make any money because, once again, I don't want to be forced to promote products that people pay me for. I don't want there to be a conflict of interest here. So don't worry about that. I am giving you my full unbiased thoughts on this, but once again, I can tell you right off the bat, because it's free, and even if it wasn't free, this plugin is definitely worth your time. Now, what SubNinja is, it's an oscilloscope plugin, so similar to what you'll often see me use LFO Tool or the Oscillus Megascope for, but it has some additional features that are pretty cool as well. So this is my track Sigma. Let me show you where and how I would use it. So the sub comes in, usually bar 33, but I have a bar of silence, so it's going to come in at bar 34. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to my kick and bass bus here on the mixer and just open up SubNinja as VST3. Now, what you're going to see here, let me make this a little bit bigger, is you're going to see two scopes. And when I play it, what you are seeing are basically two scopes of what's going on. This is the kick, and here are the mid basses. If I play just the kick and the sub, you're able to see this. Now, hopefully you understand why this is so useful. This could help you balance out your kick and your bass. It could help you understand if there's any sort of phase cancellation between your kick and your sub. For a song like this, where an LFO tool, all LFO tool would do, let me pull up LFO Tool. If I used LFO Tool in its scopy mode, let me do it this way. And you got to set it up, so it takes a little extra time. You wouldn't be able to see all of the waveform. So that's one of the things I like about this. You actually see this over a full measure rather than a beat. Now, you're right. I could go in here and change the rate at this to be just 1 and 1 or bar. But this does it a little bit differently and arguably better. LFO Tool's not meant to be an oscilloscope. We just use it that way because it's easy and fast. SubNinja is designed to actually be a scope, which is really cool. A few other neat features over here. We can, of course, zoom. One of the things I really like, you can show the wave info, which means if you go ahead and you zoom in on here, where each note and frequency is. So this is for the kick, and you can come in here and look, oh, this is, for this cycle, it is this note. Now it's triggering because I have all this other stuff kind of going on here, but it is getting it right. This track is in D sharp minor. It'll hit these transients and you're actually seeing the info from the cycle. And you can actually use this to see, the different frequencies or notes of your kick. So up here, the frequency, below it are the notes, and along with some semitone offset, which is super, super cool. Pretty helpful as well. Really, that's what this is for. You can also look at the left, the right, the mid, and the side. One of the things I like is you can zoom in the vertical part of the waveform to see more. This isn't really something you can easily do. Once again, this doesn't turn the volume up at all, but it does let you kind of hone it in a little bit as well. So where I probably would use a plugin like this is maybe on my kick and bass bus like this to look at the overlap between my kick and my sub. And that's really helpful because a lot of times in uplifting or side trance, what you have is you'll have a kick and your sub bass, and there might be a time in which they're playing at the same time. Now this kick right here, I do have it set on a certain hold time, but look what happens when I increase the hold. You're getting these peaks that you're seeing. This is a problem. So what this plugin would allow you to do is basically either adjust this or adjust the phase of your sub bass so these things aren't triggering the limiter and causing any sort of distortion or anything like this. So I could open up my sub, and maybe what this would allow me to do is just change this phase on these. Let's take a look. And I would need to do them both by the same amount. In fact, what would probably be better is map the mod wheel to phase A and B. That way, And some of this could also just be volume, and it's difficult because the kick is playing at the same time, but maybe this would help me decide how long I want to have this kick. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. You see there's some overlap. There's not really a hole too much. And then the sub comes in as well. So this is as the kick is decaying. You kind of get that. That's really what we'd want to see. Maybe I would take the release down. Yeah, that's really good. What you're seeing here now is what's actually going on, and this is what this plugin allows you to do, which is really cool. You can kind of scroll it as well using Alt and the mouse wheel. I'm using Command and the zoom key to zoom in, and maybe I would take this off. Another thing you can do is have it warn you when the frequency drops below a certain frequency, which is kind of cool. You can actually see, say, oh, what's happening below these. Now I have high pass filters on these, so we're not seeing this, but you could actually see when your baseline dips below a certain frequency, which is really cool. And each one you can choose your source, whether you have mid or side. Now, one of the other features you have here is you actually have a low pass filter you can engage for either one of these channels. So when I turn sub on, what you're seeing here is the filter that's engaging for only the low frequencies. So let's say I want to cut it off at maybe around 100 hertz. This would be just that low frequency content that we would be seeing, and you can actually see how it's adding up along with the phase. Now, this is super duper helpful when you're trying to line up the phase of your kick and your sub, or in side trance, your kick and your mid bass. Use this. You can see as I'm moving it around, yeah, that's perfect right there. You can kind of see it. It hits right in the pocket. It's like the wave is this continuous thing. Once again, this isn't going to affect the sound, but it is going to check whether or not these things are going on. So you can turn the sub on either one or both. So let me tell you, maybe there are two potential drawbacks to this plugin that I want to mention. One of them is just a wishful thinking, and that is I wish I could take this source to be from another channel. I wish what would happen is, say I put one of these on the kick and one of them on the sub, I could have this show the sub and this show the kick and the sub at the same time. Because right now you would have to put this on different channels, but if I put one on a different channel, say I put, SubNinja on here, have to turn it on. There's no way for me, well, I guess I could do this, like have them the same, but it would be cool to be able to have two different channels done separately. So I could basically, what I would like to be able to do is click on here and say, let me see this other channel that it's on. So maybe you would have to rename it or something. That's something that the Oscillus Megascope does that this plugin does not do, and that's something I like about that. But to know about this plugin is the copy protection is way better than what you get from the Oscillus people. Sometimes I don't even use the Megascope because, you only get so many machine activations and things. And here the copy protection is super simple, and I think the interface is better. It's a little bit cleaner and easier to use, and you get some of these additional detailed features, which are definitely worth it. So it's not that I would say one is better than the other. They're just kind of different things. It's just, it would have been really neat if I could just drop down in here and select a different channel. The other thing, and this isn't a drawback, let me be really clear that this isn't a drawback to the plugin. This is my concern of how other people would use it. And this has to do with the way this low pass filter is. So to show you what's going on here, I'm going to open up just a blank silent patch, and I'm going to preset initialize this, and we're going to make this just a simple sine wave. So let me go ahead and do this and drop this down to octaves. Now, what I want to do is track this to the kick and the bass bus. So let me do this. I actually do have enough channels to do this. Let's see. This is 107, and let's go ahead and route to this track only. And what you're going to see, what I'll show you, is just a concern, not with this plugin per se, but with people's understanding of it. When I engage this low pass filter, what you're going to see is as I move this cutoff frequency down, it's actually going to adjust the phase of this waveform. So notice how as I start bringing this down, well, you notice how as it's filtering, notice how it's actually shifting the phase. And this may be helpful if I zoom in a little bit more. As I bring the cutoff frequency down, it's actually shifting the phase. Now, this isn't a problem per se, because anytime you do any sort of filtering with DSP, you're going to have a phase shift. The idea of filtering and phase shift being related is just a fundamental fact of DSP. The only way you can filter without having a phase shift is having a forward-backward filter, which only maintains the magnitude and not the phase response. So you're only adjusting the magnitude. But a filter like this needs to be non-causal, which means it needs to look in the future, it needs to look ahead of time, which is impossible to program. So you could achieve this kind of non-causality trickily by using delay, but that delay, of course, is its own phase shift, which is perhaps what's going on here. Perhaps this feature is done in a way to preserve the relative phase between all of the things. So as you bring this down, you see this. But because the cutoff filter is adjusting the overall phase of the signal, makes me think that that's what's going on, which means if you use this to try to line things up and you're unaware of this, you could run into issues in other places when you're using this filter. So I would say use the filter on a bus channel or on your master to look at the overall relative impacts of the phase, but just be careful being aware that any sort of filtering does have this sort of phase shift involved when you're doing it. That would be the one thing I would say to keep in mind when you're using this plugin. But I certainly would use this. In fact, what would be really cool to do is for this track is to just go over here to the master, turn on the mid bass bus, and what I would do is just put this on the master like this, make it a little bit bigger. Oops. It's nice you can resize it, and then look at both the overall scope and also sort of a lower frequency version of it. So let's take this track over maybe in the main drop section. This is my track Sigma. And this would be really good. You know, I could have this warn me whenever things go below maybe like 25 hertz or so. And that would let me know, hey, do I need to have a high pass filter or something on here? I do have a high pass filter on my master to avoid any of that sort of stuff, but it is possible that, you know, something could creep through, or I just want to know. Maybe I wouldn't put another steeper filter because that can once again cause phase problems as we talked about, but just to be aware of this. And you can use this to see as the notes change, how might you have to offset the phase. If you're doing something like psytrance, usually in uplifting, to be honest, I don't pay that much attention. I make sure the root note is in phase with the kick. When the note's changing, I'm like, you know, I just get lazy, to be honest. But if you're doing psytrance or something like that, I would say, yeah, you will go in and every time your note changes, if it does change, you'll want to make sure it's phase aligned. Something like this is what you would want to see with that low frequency. And luckily a plugin like this will really, really help you. What I would describe this as is just a really slick oscilloscope specifically for low frequencies and with low frequencies in mind. So for that reason, would I recommend this plugin? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to really give it a score per se. I don't really think that these numbers are all that useful. And I say that and I realize I have reviews of synthesizers where I give them a numeric score. But I would recommend this plugin. Do I recommend this plugin? Yes. I think it's very useful for your kick and bass and for anyone who's doing low frequency stuff. It's nice to see this made by a producer who works with a lot of low frequencies and who put the time and thought into like, what would be helpful if I was making a plugin that was mainly for producers who are going to use an oscilloscope for their low frequencies, which is what you're going to use them for because high frequencies have such a small wavelength anyway. It doesn't really matter. You know, like you're looking over here, you're like, yeah, who cares if this hi-hat, you know, has this content here. What really matters are these low frequencies where you can have phase cancellations over a significant period of time, and that's where this plugin is really, really helpful for doing that. So definitely check it out. Remember, once again, you can download it for free if it's February. If you wait, you'll only get 10% off using the promo code, but that's still pretty good. But I do recommend this plugin. I do think it's pretty great, and check it out. Thanks for watching this video, and let me know if you have any questions. I will see you in the next video.